Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United news and transfer news, and we're going to be talking about Jadon Sancho tonight being Manchester United's transfer priority. For once, we don't have to spend a lot of time talking about Harry Kane. We'll also be talking about potential talks with Raphael Varane. Pogba's brother's opened his mouth again, and also Dean Henderson potentially opening his mouth about he feels he's done enough to be Manchester United's number one. We'll be talking about that as well. But let's start off with Jadon Sancho and Manchester United. I'm sure many of you have read it this evening anyway. There's quite a few people talking about this anyway. But look, as I said yesterday, I was out the loop yesterday and this morning. I had my vaccine this morning and yesterday I was busy. So I didn't really get much chance to talk to people. But I have been speaking to a couple of people this afternoon. People that I think have got a good ear to the ground, especially around transfers and Manchester United. And yeah, look, catching up on this Harry Kane news. Haven't had a chance for a day and a half. And the reality is that Harry Kane probably does want to go to Man City. You know, he's dropped enough hints. He wants to win titles. And at Manchester United, he ain't stupid. He probably realises that Man United might not win a title even if he went there. Man City, you know, it's there on a plate. Chelsea, it's there on a plate. Liverpool, it's there on a plate. So Harry Kane to Manchester United, regardless of whether Manchester United want to buy him or not, you know, would he come to United? I think he would, but I don't think United are in for him anyway. However, the general consensus is, with those with their ears to the wall of Manchester United, is that Manchester United's priority is Jadon Sancho, not Harry Kane. Cavani staying has basically shifted United's attention away from a striker. They do want a striker, and if Cavani hadn't stayed, they would have been looking at that. But a lot of effort's gone into keeping Cavani at the club. Manchester United, and look, I'm repeating stuff here. Manchester United do not have endless resources. Yes, they are very concerned by the Glazer out movement. Yes, they are anxious to get fans back on side. But no, they do not feel that they have hundreds of millions of pounds to go and spend on this player and that player. And although they know that signing a Harry Kane would sell them a lot of shirts and get a lot of exposure, they've just committed £200,000 a week to Cavani to stay for another year. And they've promised Cavani game time. So to go and buy Harry Kane and give him 300k a week to bench a 200k a week striker that you've only just signed and begged to stay, that's their reason not to go for Harry Kane, basically. They are looking for a striker and they know they're going to need one in a year's time. What brand of striker they're going to look at depends on how well Greenwood develops over the next year. So Jadon Sancho remains the priority for Manchester United, is the most important thing. We know he's got a good relationship with Marcus Rashford. That's come out again today. But we also know he wants to come back to England. We also know that he's very brand sensitive, and Manchester United is the club in England to be at if you are brand sensitive. And being brand sensitive doesn't mean that you're only interested in selling brands and stuff like that. But it is an important part of football for some people. And look, Jadon Sancho is a very focused footballer. He can never be questioned for, putting, money or his brand ahead of, his footballing talent. This is a young lad that left Man City to go to Germany as a teenager and prove himself on, in Europe's big tournaments, which was the Champions League. But Jadon Sancho at United is going to deliver more for sponsors and more for his brand than Jadon Sancho at Manchester City or Chelsea or Liverpool at this moment in time. So Man United's a good fit, and Manchester United was also the club that he expected to go to last summer, and he was the signing that Manchester United wanted last summer. And also, as everybody keeps saying, the personal terms, the contract, etc., all that was agreed last summer. So basically, you're left with a situation, as Romano has mentioned, as many other people have mentioned, where if United and Dortmund agree a fee, this deal could be done very, very quickly. It's whether they can agree the fee. But he remains Manchester United's priority. And look, do I agree that Jadon Sancho should be United's priority? Not really. But do I think that he should be the priority if you're going to go for a marquee signing? Yes, I do. It's not the same as Harry Kane, because Harry Kane, I don't believe that we should spend that amount of money on a player that we don't need massively. We do need a winger. I would question why we spent so much money on Amad Diallo and Pellistri to then go and buy Sancho as well, because effectively that's 3 wingers brought in the last 12 months. No midfielders and no centre-backs. So, and I know Donny van der Beek's a midfielder, but not in the sense that we want him to be. So, yeah, it would be interesting in that sense, I suppose. But How are you feeling from vaccine, Mark? Please make a 90% Sancho t-shirt if we sign him so I can buy instead of the United jersey, says Joshua. I'm feeling all right. My arm's a bit sore. Mark, how much will Sancho and Bellingham cost? Well, we're not going to sign Bellingham, Mikhail Roach, so I don't want to entertain that. We won't be signing him. But Jadon Sancho remains Manchester United's transfer priority. Now, by no means does this mean we're going to sign him, but he does tick a lot of the boxes still. I said this last week. He will sell the shirts. He's an exciting player. He'll get people back on side with the Glazers, or at least calm the Glazers' protest out. And United are desperate to do a signing like that. So, it's one of those where you have to wait and see. And as I said, look, I think the big hint with United is that we do go back in. Lindelof, a couple of years ago, we were going to get him in January. We didn't get him, and people said, you were on about Lindelof and it never happened. 6 months later, it happened. Bruno Fernandes in the summer, I was on about it all summer. You said it was going to happen. It didn't happen. 6 months later, it did. Jadon Sancho last summer. 90% club. You twats, this, that and the other. 12 months later, we signed him. So United have got history of doing this as well. I mean, as I've said, I think the two most likely signings for United this summer, if I had to bet on it, and I'm not going to do that, the two most likely signings for United this summer are Jadon Sancho and Kieran Trippier, in my opinion. From what I've heard, from what I think they will do, that's what I think they'll do. What did you hear about Arsenal being sold? Seen your tweet, hope we get sold as well. Just a lot of rumours. I mean, look, I'm not going to put out there that Arsenal are going to be sold, but there's a lot of rumours behind the scenes that Arsenal's sale could be a lot closer than people think. I mean, I don't know how reliable these people are, but there's just a lot of people in a lot of chat groups saying it, and your ears start to prick up when you're getting a lot of these rumours in different areas. I've not heard anybody credible say it, but I've seen it in a lot of chat groups that I'm in. So we just have to wait and see. My only stance on what that was, well done Arsenal if you get it done, and it's a shame Man United haven't got it done. But we'll see on that one. And I will reiterate what I said this morning and what I said 2 nights ago. This isn't about going with the news. Oh, look, Harry Kane looks like he wants to go Man City, so let's focus on Jadon Sancho. I said it the other day. I would rather United get Sancho than Kane, because I think that is more about, you've got to build a team. You've got to build a team. You've got to build a spine. You've got to build a team. We need to freshen up that spine. Get in the shower. Get some Radox and rub it in. We've got to freshen up that spine. We've got the spine. We've got to get it going. Now, for me, you freshen up the spine with a top-class centre-back and a top-class CDM. And Sancho's not part of the spine. But he improves the team more than Kane, in my opinion, because we have got strikers. We have scored goals. What we haven't got is a winger who can create. And we haven't got a winger who can create. Pogba can play on the left side of the attack, but he's not a winger. He can create, but he's not a winger. Rashford and Greenwood can create, but they're not wingers. Jadon Sancho is an identikit winger. I think Diallo can do it, but I don't know what's going to happen with him. Did you see the Pogba circus is rolling again? His brother spoke Spanish TV last night. I hope my brother signs with Barcelona. I'm going to talk about that now, Gary. If Varane cannot be done, Koundé for 55 million, Sancho for 80 million, wouldn't that be bad in this upcoming transfer window, says Tyrese. But Tyrese, you've still got McTominay and Fred in the midfield. That's my issue. It's not good enough. I mean, buying Sancho might force Pogba into the midfield. That's a positive. If we don't sign Sancho, will Rafinha be a good second choice? And why is there absolutely no news about United wanting to sign a CDM? Exactly, Sakin. I don't know. If we sign Sancho, do you think it will make us less predictable in attack? Our left side attack is great. Our right, not so much so we go left a lot. It's good. It's a duck says. And Mark, did you see the photo of the ghost of Phil Jones? It's creepy, says Joshua Harper. I did see. Hey, actually, Joshua, good reminder. Thank you very much for that. Just before I talk about Pogba. Hi, Mark. Do you know the petition is on the 14th to meet you? Yeah, I thought Jordan was going to mention it this morning. Massive shout out to all of you lot. Remember a couple of weeks ago, the petition for the 50+1 to be debated by the UK government was at about 32,000. In 2 days, the United Stand took it to 100,000. Nobody else was getting behind that petition, really. The Red Army did a little, and Man United Supporters Trust did, but none of the big hitters got involved in that. And I know they've done this other petition, and that's great, about a football regulator, but for United, we're trying to change United. The football regulator stops Super League. That's for everybody. Fuck everybody else. Nobody has really pushed anything for United. So that is going to be debated by government on the 14th of June. So well done to all of you who signed both petitions, but specifically well done for the 50+1 one, because that was the hardest, because we didn't have any big celebrities or big ex-players behind that. We just had to do it as fans, and you played a big part in that. Fred has more assists to the other team than his own, says Carl Rayner. And do you think we can get a £5 and a pack of jelly babies for Rashford? Rashford's a good player, Joshua. And Fred, okay, let me go back to just the ghost of Phil Jones. I think they're premiering the Sir Alex Ferguson documentary, which is coming out at the end of the month. And some United players were there. Phil Jones was there, but more importantly, Harry Maguire was there, and he had no crutches and he had no protective boot on. Now, this is tight. This is tighter than a camel's arse in a sandstorm. It really is tight. He was in. He had a protective thing on Tuesday night ahead of Fulham, and on Thursday night he doesn't. Harry Maguire is going to play in that final. Whether it's good for him to play in that final, whether it's a risk for him, of course it is. I'd do the same. I'd do the same because how many finals are we going to play? Europa League final last time, was it 4 years ago, 3 years ago? It doesn't, you know, you've got... I totally understand him. It's going to be down to Solskjaer and the fitness staff for him to say no. He would never be playing next Wednesday if this was middle of the season and we were playing Brighton next Wednesday. He'd have a couple of weeks off, maybe even 3 weeks off. But he's going to push himself. I don't think he's fit. I don't think he can be fit. But can you blame him? Can you absolutely blame him for playing in that final? Look, it's a risk. It's a risk for him. It's a risk from Solskjaer. If he makes a big mistake or he's not quite right, that's where it goes wrong. But ultimately, if I was him, I'd try and play as well because you're the captain and it's a final. So, you know. Let's talk about Paul Pogba's brother very quickly then. So Paul Pogba's brother has opened his mouth up before about him leaving United, and he's come out and said he wants to see him playing at Paul Pogba he wants to see him playing at Barcelona. I don't care. I've got to be honest. I do not care. I do not react to things like that at all anymore. I barely react to Mino Raiola at the moment because ultimately, Paul Pogba's brother talking about where he wants Paul Pogba to go. I think this has been proved a few times. He's opened his mouth up 2 or 3 times in the last 18 months and none of those things have ever happened. So I'm sure he said stuff before about he wants him to go to Real Madrid or this, that and the other. Who cares? Who absolutely cares? You know, I'm not bothered. I'm really not bothered. Because at the end of the day, if United don't want to sell Paul Pogba this summer, he'll still be here next year. I believe Paul Pogba will run his contract down. I think he will be here next year and we'll lose him for nothing the summer after, which is really embarrassing on Manchester United's business side. But they're an embarrassment anyway. Our board's a joke. Ander Herrera walked out the door for nothing and he was worth at least 25 million quid. You know, we've handed out stupid contracts. So I think Pogba will be at Man United next season unless United decide to sell him. So whatever his brother says about him going here, there and everywhere, well, you know, keep on dreaming, mate, because United have still got a decision to make this summer and I think they will decide to keep him and try and persuade him to sign a new contract. So I'm not really bothered about that. I've always said that Paul Pogba will decide after the Euros what he wants to do, i.e. he will come back from the Euros and say, I'll sign a contract or I'm not signing a contract. If he doesn't sign a contract, I don't think he'll want to leave. I don't think United will sell him. I think he'll just run his contract down. So I expect Pogba to be here at United next summer, next season. Having said that, I also think we're walking into one of the weirdest summer transfer windows in general that we've ever seen. Harry Kane is not a player I expected to go. There's talk of Mbappe going. Haaland's still very much up in the air. Pogba, who knows what's happening there. There's loads and loads of things, and there's loads and loads of things around Manchester United. So nothing will surprise me, but I expect Paul Pogba to run his contract down, which is what I've been saying for quite a while now. Pogba for Varane is perfect for everybody, says Miha. Well, it is. It is a good deal, Pogba for Varane, but is it perfect for everybody, mate? Because I think we can all agree that Paul Pogba is one of our best players. And if Paul Pogba was swapped for Varane, you've got a really good centre-back pairing with Varane and Maguire. You've got, and maybe you bring Jadon Sancho in and you've got a really good attack, but you've got a shit midfield. Bruno Fernandes, and who else? Matic is past it, Donny's not been used, and then you've got McTominay and Fred. We'd be the polo, we'd be a mint with a hole. Because that midfield, and look, games are won and lost in the midfield. I don't care what anybody says. You can think about Kante and Kovacic and Jorginho and Rodri and Gundogan and Fernandinho and all the other teams. But for McFred, Matic, that ain't good enough. That ain't good enough. So if Pogba goes for Varane, yeah, you've got a top quality centre-back, but you've just lost one of your only good midfielders as well. So I don't think that puts us in a great situation unless we buy a midfielder. And I also think that if More like a bagel, not a polo. Bagel FC, true. But I think we need a CDM if Pogba stays. If Pogba goes, I think we need 2 midfielders. So yes, it's not so good to do that swap deal. I mean, look, what I would like to see is, let's swap Pogba for Varane, let's sign Sancho, but let's also buy Bissouma and, I don't know, Declan Rice. I'd be happy with that. Or Zakaria. I like bagels as well. Pogba has been too inconsistent. Even now, he's indisciplined, and look at the goals we concede when he's there. Play Donny in the middle next season, says Neil Murray. Well, I'd like to see Donny playing in the middle, but we've never decided to sort of develop that, have we? Just on Varane, I don't know whether you saw it. I saw it on the Twitter account MUFC MPB. I don't know how, the fact that they're tweeting it, they're quite good on transfer sources, and they were saying that Varane's representatives have apparently been in... I'm not doing a Sean Dyche impression, Alistair. I've just had the vaccine. I feel a bit rough. I don't want to start doing Sean Dyche impressions and getting myself all excited. I might plummet. My arm's really, really sore, actually, but that's a side effect. I was just talking about... Varane. So apparently Varane's representatives have flown into London to discuss a transfer. Now, obviously, in London, you've got Chelsea, and I think Chelsea are probably the favourites to get Varane. However, Manchester United do have offices in London. So people are getting excited. But to be honest with you, if Varane's representatives have flown into London to talk about a transfer... I think you are stretching a little bit to go, well, United have got offices in London. It might be that. But also, Chelsea want a centre-back, and hey-ho, they are in London. So I would be more concerned that... I think Varane's going to go to Chelsea. I think Chelsea will get the centre-back that they want, and it'll either be Koundé or Varane. I'd love United to get Varane, but I don't know. What about Donny finally fulfilling his role as Pogba's replacement, says Chubba? Well, look... The thing I've always said about this is, any chance we sign Griezmann as Sancho? No, God, I hope not, Seth. I don't want Griezmann. Griezmann can piss off. I've always said that with Donny van der Beek, he could be Pogba's replacement. But it's almost like, it would be like a media spin story that, wow, you don't need to buy a midfielder because you've got Van der Beek to replace Pogba. But Pogba has never played as a number 10 this season, really. He's never really played as a number 10. He's primarily played in the midfield too, or as a left-sided attacking midfielder. How many times have we used Donny there? A handful of times? So if Van der Beek is the Pogba replacement, why has Van der Beek not been playing when Pogba's been injured or out of form or whatever? So, yes, he could be the replacement, but if he was the replacement, I would have expected him to play a hell of a lot more. If we end up getting Koundé and Sancho, would you call that a good transfer window, says Mehdi? No, I wouldn't. You know why I wouldn't? Because that's letting the Glazers off the hook. You can't buy a centre-back and a right winger and say that's a good transfer window when the midfield is shit. I'm sorry, you can't. I mean, look, these people have been at the protest. These people who are doing this thing online where they're filling their boxes up with stuff from Man United sponsors, then they're empty it and costing these people money. There's a lot of people doing a lot of things about the Glazers at the moment, and fair play. But I'm not going to sit here and say, well, all those people who've done all these things and signed the petition and everything like that. Well, if we get Koundé and Sancho, that's a good transfer window. There is no good transfer window this summer they can produce anyway. But if you're genuinely closing a gap on Man City, you say to the manager, what do you need? The manager will say, I need a top-class centre-back, a top-class CDM and Jadon Sancho. If they don't deliver that, it's not a good transfer window. For me, the only way this transfer window is tolerant is if they buy Sancho, Rice and Varane, or 3 very close equivalents. That's a transfer window where you go, well, there is an ambition to catch Man City. Anything less than that, and let's be honest, we will be delivered something less than that. Anything less than that is fake and they are not being real. If we are genuinely trying to close a gap on second to first, you buy a top-class centre-back, a top-class CDM and a right winger. And anybody who goes, wow, Koundé and Sancho's a good transfer window, you may as well buy a t-shirt with Glazers in on it because you've fallen for their lowering of the standards again. We are Manchester United. Manchester City have got virtually 2 brilliant first teams and they're probably going to add in a Harry Kane. And you're going to sit there and go, well, it's a good transfer window to totally neglect the midfield and just buy a centre-back and a right winger. Well, Manchester United, and as I said at lunchtime, I see I think it's more likely that Liverpool and Chelsea overtake us next year than we get nearer to Man City. But if we want to get nearer to Man City, and this is the challenge to the board, if you don't want to get overtaken, they know what's coming next year. They know we're fighting for fourth, and that's enough. If we get fourth place, they'll be happy. They're not going to sack Solskjaer for going from second to fourth. They'll sack him if he doesn't get top four. That's what they always do. But we go second to fourth last year, they'll be happy. Fans won't be happy, but they'll be happy. If they're genuine about really, really reforming this football club, then they will go and buy a top CDM, a top centre-back and a right winger. But it won't happen. People saying we can't blow our budget on Kane but think we are going to buy Sancho, Rice and Varane, which would be over 200 million, never going to happen. And I do agree with you on that, Sean. If we end up getting Koundé... So I've answered that from Mehdi. Thanks everyone who's tuning in, by the way. Please smash a like on the video. Make sure you subscribe, bottom right-hand corner as well. Still got plenty to go on the show. But remember, we are we're heading into a very big... Well, heading into a massive game on Wednesday. Once that's out of the way, we head towards the Euros. But once that's out of the way, the transfer stuff really kicks in. And United, one way or another, have got lots and lots of decisions to make. Lingard, Mata, Matic, Dalot, Pereira and others. Incoming, centre-back, CDM, striker, right winger, right back. Loads and loads and loads and loads. And there's going to be loads and loads and loads of shows on this channel. So make sure you subscribe, bottom right-hand corner. I mean, that's just factual. There will be lots and lots of decisions to be made. And of course, one of the biggest decisions of all will be the goalkeeping situation. What is going to happen there? Now, I didn't really want to be talking about the goalkeeping situation tonight, but I did see a tweet that Dean Henderson feels that he's done more than enough to be Manchester United's number one, and he wants to be Manchester United's number one, but he won't wait around forever. Now, look, first of all, you've got to say, is this true? Well, it seems to be coming from somebody who has been correct about a few things in the past. Leah James, isn't it? Who's actually been very good on a few things. So look, take it with a pinch of salt, of course, because it's always stories that can get twisted in that. But I think it's coming from a good source. And at the end of the day, I don't like the goalkeeping situation at Manchester United. It irritates me because we're wandering away now from what I felt was the most valid thing about talking about transfers tonight, is that we must buy a centre defensive midfielder, a centre-back and a right winger. That's what we must do. I don't think we'll do those three things. But we're getting pulled into a goalkeeping situation again. And I don't really want to spend a lot of time talking about a goalkeeping situation because, as I said at lunchtime, we have got two very good goalkeepers. It's like the guy who likes a chicken burger or a beef burger. Like, if you want the beef, go with the beef. If you want the chicken, go with the chicken. But the midfield debate is an empty box. There's crumbs. There's nothing there. There's nothing to choose. It's just empty. So at least with the goalkeeping situation, you actually got a choice. And it's two very good choices, unless you're a vegetarian, in which case football's not for you. But actually, that's not true. I'm using analogies here. I'm not saying vegetarians can't watch football. What I'm saying is that goalkeeping situation, if we're dealing in meat burgers, I haven't got three goalkeepers. All right, Grant's a veggie burger. He's never going to get picked. But at least you've got something if you want it. My point is, we've got two very good choices in goal with De Gea and Henderson. Now, in midfield, we don't have any choices. And that's what annoys me about this goalkeeping situation, is that you can be Team De Gea or you can be Team Henderson, and that's fine. But the way it's been continually regurgitated into a big story is frustrating for me because the season's nearly over. Can we just decide which goalkeeper we're keeping and sell the other one and then focus on the midfield? Because it goes on too long. Amit says, apparently rumours around Matic to Roma to reunite with Jose for 10 million and Mata is also leaving. We need to replace desperately, thoughts. Well, I'm glad they're moving on, Amit. I think it's about time. I like both players, but they are past it. And we can get a bit of money, that would be good. But yeah, you're right. We need players coming in. Akshay says, shouldn't we also consider the pandemic and the restrictions on the budget? Maximum 120. I don't see more than that being sanctioned. Akshay, I couldn't give a shit about Manchester United's restricted budgets because of COVID. They've been restricting our budgets for 16 years. They put us into debt to buy us. They've been taking dividends out for years. I know it's difficult, and I know COVID's difficult for everybody, but Man United are playing the smallest violin in the world talking about restricted budgets because of COVID. They've been restricting this bloody club for years. The Old Trafford's leaking. They've not put money into this club for years. I'm not going to give them the excuse of COVID. Bollocks to that. there's no sympathy for that. Look, in a if we ran this club like a proper club, then maybe they would be. But they've took so much money out of this club over the years through various sources. They can't come out and say, well, we'd love to spend, but it's COVID. You don't want to spend, is the truth. They're going to use COVID as an excuse not to spend, but they're not. They don't want to spend. Matic, I've done that from Caban. He says Matic leaving for Roma would be a blessing in disguise. We would definitely buy a CDM then. Henderson can easily fund a good CDM with £40 million. Well, remember, we are linked to this Aaron Barry, who I don't think Aaron Barry from Getafe is actually a good signing. I think he's a cheap 25-year-old signing that nobody else wants. We could get lucky that he's good, but does that sound like a Manchester United signing? A 25-year-old that no one else is really looking at that's cheap? That sounds like a Norwich City signing. That sounds like a Southampton signing. It doesn't sound like the sort of signing that's going to catch you up with Man City. Like I say, it could be the best bit of scouting in the world and everyone else has missed it, but I doubt it. Mark, with a sporting and technical director now in place, do you expect our summer transfer business to be more efficient? Says Vincent. I want to come back to what Dean Henderson said, but I'm just whizzing through the super chats here. I think you're right, Vincent. I think that, and welcome to the Members Club, Sikandi Joseph as well. I think with the new sporting director and football director, even though they're not new, they're just people from within the club. They have got a big summer ahead of them because, I mean, you can't do much worse than than last year. But if they do as bad as last year, what's the point? So they have got a big summer. All eyes are on them. And I did say that when they were appointed. I didn't really think much of Murta being appointed sporting director because I thought, well, it's just like the new CEO being Richard Arnold after Woodward. It's just moving people around, more of the same. But proof's in the pudding. Let's see what they do. Is it me or does it seem it's always Henderson moaning? I'm sorry, but what has he done? De Gea is so much better than him. It hurts my head, says Sean Turner. Hector says, I'm tired of hearing Pogba for Varane swap. They are good friends and Varane signing will strengthen Pogba's chance of staying. Also, Neves for CDM, says Hector. Good point. Will you be okay if De Gea has a bad season next season? We sell Dino to another Premier League team and he performs well. This is the only thought that troubles me. Works both ways, Wayne. Works both ways. You know, you keep De Gea, his form drops off, Henderson goes and be brilliant and everyone says, oh, we should have kept Henderson. You keep Henderson, you sell De Gea. De Gea's world class. Henderson's not as good as everyone thought. So we should have kept De Gea. This is the problem. You make a choice. For me, the educated choice and the form choice is De Gea. I think De Gea is the better keeper. I think he's got the better CV. He's only 30. You look at Kasper Schmeichel over the last couple of games, awesome. Over the whole season, awesome. 35. De Gea's 30. And I think De Gea's a better goalkeeper than Schmeichel. So we are going to get rid of a goalkeeper that's nowhere near his prime. Proven world class for a young keeper. No, not for me. I think De Gea is the educated choice. I also think De Gea is the right choice based on form. If you look at De Gea against Fulham, that double save, unbelievable. You look at the game against Roma a couple of weeks ago, unbelievable. The form is with De Gea. He is the better choice as far as I'm concerned. But I'm not the manager. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is. And if he gets it right, fair play. If he gets it wrong, he's going to take the criticism. But going back to this story, I'm not even going to dwell on it. I tweeted about it and I'm going to say the same. If Dean Henderson thinks he's done enough this season to be Manchester United's number one, then he's deluded. And that doesn't mean I don't like Dean Henderson, but can somebody get him the highlights reel of the match a week ago against Liverpool? Because he was at fault for 3 goals, badly. I don't think De Gea's made 3 big mistakes this season. So there's a decision to be made. I would go with De Gea, but it's not 100%. I just think I would go with De Gea. But if Dean Henderson thinks he's done enough to be Man United's number one, then God, I tell you what, I always thought Samuel Luckhurst was his biggest fan. I think Dean Henderson's his biggest fan if he thinks he's done enough to be United number one, because he simply hasn't. You know, he simply hasn't. There hasn't been that, oh my God, he's streets ahead. In fact, I've come out of this season going, De Gea's ahead. So, you know, you've got to have confidence as a keeper, and I've got no issue with him having that confidence at all. And I do like him as a goalkeeper, and if he's our goalkeeper next year, then I will back him, even though I think Ollie's made a mistake. It's Ollie's mistake, not Dean's. He's got to back himself. But if he genuinely thinks he's done enough to be United's goalkeeper this season, he's wrong. I'm afraid. In my opinion, he's very wrong. I haven't seen enough from him. In fact, I think in recent weeks he's been very flappy. Was it the Burnley game when he was coming for crosses on the halfway line and stuff like that? I mean, I over-exaggerate, but I think he's looked flappy. I think at the business end of the season, he's become flappy and nervous, and De Gea has come into his own. So, you know, But look, it's a decision Ollie's got to make. I think De Gea plays in the final, and that could be his swan song. That could be bye-bye, or it could be an affirmation that he's the number one. Mark, but De Gea's got to play in the final. Make the decision in the summer, but De Gea's got to play in the final. Mark, the Glazers won't spend big. Forget Sancho, Varane and Rice. All we'll get is bargain basement nobodies. Nothing will be spent on the ground. Huge disappointment coming next season, says Kevin Latham. Well, of course, this is news that I haven't mentioned. It has been mentioned on other shows that the Joel Glazer is going to sit on the fan forum on June the 4th. This is really interesting because I mean, look, I don't sit on the fan forum. It's people who've been on that fan forum for years who are match going fans representing different strands of that fans, you know, disability, certain age groups, etc. And they do a good job. They do a good job on that fan forum. Now, they're in a difficult situation with that Joel Glazer because do they push it or do they take his promises or do they, you know, are they accommodating? Some people would say you shouldn't even be sat down with him. Some people would say don't swallow any shits. You know, I think ultimately the letter that Joel Glazer wrote, we're already a couple of weeks on from that and it's dying down. This was what I said at the time. They're going to feed out positive vibes just to put fire on the flames enough to be able to go, sod it, we're not doing anything, the fire's out again. The momentum needs to keep going, but of course I think the momentum is already slowing down. A lot of people are saying this. The momentum on the Glazer out movement is slowing down because, you know, everyone's waiting to see what's going to be said in the fan forum and if they're going to follow through on the letter. And, you know, the longer things calm down, the more they'll go, well, we don't need to do anything. We don't need to do anything. But we'll see. Thoughts on completing deals before the Euros, because Euros might increase the prices on Sancho, Varane, Rice if their teams do well, says Akshay. Well, you know, again, you've got to balance things up, haven't you? I mean, look, a little bit of a warning, and it might be the same in your country. And look, we have people in India who will be very, you know, who are in a very, very sad situation, who will be saying, look, you know, this is what can happen in your country. The increase in this Indian variant with COVID is now starting to spread around. Now, in the UK, we've got a lot of vaccination, and you know that hopefully will be resistant to this variant. But that might not be the same in Europe, and we might see another wave, and we might see another restriction on football and fans back in the ground again. And if that happens, it has a restriction on revenue. So I don't know. Is it wise to go and chuck massive money at players in this market? Anyone going from United Stand to Gdansk, we'll see them there, says SMJ. Yeah, so Flex and Josh will be there, definitely. They've got their tickets and everything. They'll be there next Wednesday. Did you see Phil Jones is at Fergie's premiere? Rumour has it he's torn every muscle in his body walking up the steps, says Joshua Bowater. And apparently, Phil Jones has had multiple injuries in his legs, but the one place he's apparently got the strongest bottom muscles in football, because he's so used to sitting down on it that it's rock hard. Thoughts on completing deals before Euros, because Euros might... I've done that one from Akshay. And I'm worried that Ollie has the power to sell our best player over the past 10 years for Henderson, who's been average this season. The man picks McFred, says Sean Turner. And if our board doesn't want to invest in scouts to find players like Kante Mahrez, pay cheap, then they want to leave, sell high, says Sean. Interesting point, that, Sean. Just going back to that other point, though. Somebody said, I don't know whether it was on the live chat or whether it was before I came live, that Dean Henderson does seem to put a lot... Whether it's him or not, there seems to always be a lot of stuff in the press about Dean Henderson thinks he should be number one. He's not here to make... You know, I should be number one, I should be number one. If his press representation is anything... If he's like that behind closed doors... I can imagine that he's, you know, on Ollie all the time. I want to be number one or I'm leaving, this, that and the other. And I just wonder with Solskjaer, it just puts that question mark above Solskjaer, doesn't it? Because I think De Gea comes across as, I just do my job. You know, I'm committed. I'm one of the best goalkeepers in the world. I'm not here to cause issues. I'm here to perform. Well, you've got that with De Gea maybe. And then you've got Henderson, who's, you know, seemingly very vocal about being number one. Has Solskjaer been swayed by the vocality? You know, he wants to be number one. He believes he's number one. I'm going to go with him over De Gea, who's just, you know, happy to do his job. I don't know. I mean, there's all those rumours about De Gea and Solskjaer falling out as well. So De Gea is humble, says Kevin. And I think De Gea does come across as somebody who's very humble. But loud isn't always the best. You know, we've all been at school with those big gobby people who are who end up with shit marks because they're so interested in being gobby. I think it's a very, very hard decision for Solskjaer to make. And is he experienced enough as a coach himself to make this decision? The thing is, I heard somebody say, well, maybe he should speak to Sir Alex Ferguson because Sir Alex Ferguson bought David De Gea. But I was speaking to Paul Ince yesterday when I was doing this shoot up in Manchester, and we were talking about when he left, and he said, look, you know, I didn't want to leave United, but Sir Alex decided he wanted to evolve the team. So, you know, if Ollie goes and speaks to Sir Alex about De Gea, yes, Sir Alex bought De Gea and he loves De Gea, but he might go, well, look, on the other hand, you know, if you feel it's time to evolve, you can't be scared of making big decisions. So, I don't know. I just think with the goalkeeping situation, I really like De Gea and I really like Henderson, and I am team De Gea, but I do like Henderson. But the sad thing about this is we spend so much time talking about it, and really it should have been dealt with last summer, because we spent all this time talking about it again tonight, and really we need a centre-back. We need a midfielder. We've got two good goalkeepers. Pick one and get on with it. The midfield, you've got to go out and buy it. Mark, I do genuinely believe we will sign the right players this time round, the likes of Sancho. Ollie's speech Tuesday was absolutely saying to the board, time to be serious. Like Beth said, the team has reached its limits, says Michael Southcombe. I hope you're right. Glad to have you back, says Aditya. It's good to be back. It's good to be back. It's good to be back. I tell you what, a day and a half is a long time to not be on the show. Cristiano shipping his cars is the GOAT on the move, says Wayne Rooney. And if we're going with Fred and McTominay again next season, Ollie might go to the Mino route very quickly. Abernaf, I hope I'm wrong, but if he goes with McTominay and Fred next season, he won't last long. He won't last long because the reality is most of the fan base know that McTominay and Fred ain't good enough. And if Ollie sticks with it next year, he's making a major mistake, in my opinion. He's got an opportunity this summer to change it. And if he doesn't change it, then, you know, that's a mistake. Mark, some people forget that when we reach Champions League football, the spending is significantly less. We finish second. I can guarantee Ollie will not be backed. It's a dangerous cycle. Good point, said Jamie. Just on Cristiano Ronaldo, here's a good point from Randy as well. He said, you know, Henderson fans say pick Henderson, but Henderson should be hitting the performances that De Gea did in the 15-16 season, because De Gea was the same age as Henderson at that point. Look, that is a great point. David De Gea from 2014 to 2018 was world class. I think De Gea was aged 24 to 28 then, or 23 to 27, or 23 to 28. What's Henderson now? 24, 25. So, you know, that's what you're comparing. People say Henderson's the younger goalkeeper. Look at what De Gea was doing at that age. He was, you know, so I don't know. Look, Ollie's just going to make a decision on that. Like last year, my birthday is today. Keep up the good work to you and the rest of the team. Happy birthday, Dogger. And Abernaf, if we'll get you, we've done that one. So I just wanted to say about Ronaldo, because a few people are talking about that. In fact, I saw some stuff about Ronaldo on social media. Look, where this is coming from on social media is basically a Twitter account who we don't know is behind it. And I know these accounts get really popular over the transfer window, but I've said it every single year. I've had information that's been right. Alexis Sanchez, a week before anybody else, I knew he was coming to United. And if it hadn't happened, I'd have looked bloody stupid. But I knew it was going to happen because I knew where it's coming from. And I've been right about a few things. I've also been wrong about a few things. What was the name of Embolo? Remember that about 4 years ago? It's definitely going to come. It didn't happen. So look, nobody's 100% right on transfers. But at least with me, you know this is the United stand and you can see who I am. With Romano, you know who he is. You can see him. There are a lot of accounts on social media who you haven't got a fucking clue who they are. You know, and we all know what they are. And I'm not going to shout them out because, you know, in some ways it's unfair. But if you got genuine transfer news, you don't need to hide behind some made-up Twitter account. Like, you know, some irrelevant name. I could say, I can make a rumour up for you now. Right, okay. And I'm pulling this out of my arse. I actually am. For once, I'm genuinely admitting to pulling something out of my arse. Right, okay. It's a critical week for Varane. Manchester United board members will be discussing Varane over the next few days, and a critical point will be hit in relation to a bid. That makes it sound like we're going to bid him and get him. But it doesn't mean anything. It just means discussions will be had about whether to do it or not. But you can twist your words around. You see what I mean? And this is what these people do. If they had genuine information, you wouldn't hide behind something because you'd want the credibility. Like Romano. I agree De Gea is the best option now, but there was a time where we gave De Gea a chance after early mistakes. Hendo needs a run to reach potential, says Tom. Well, if you're Team Hendo, that's absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Anyway, look, Ronaldo. Ronaldo to United makes absolutely no sense. Now, I love Ronaldo, and I would love Ronaldo back at United because you know what? I'm a romantic. I'm a romantic. I think you're only here once, and you know, dream big, dream big. And Ronaldo back in a United shirt, I don't care if he's shit. I'd still cry. I'd love it. Is it going to happen? Well, why would it happen? For the same, he'd be more expensive than Harry Kane. I can't be a hypocrite. Why would we bring Ronaldo back? If Cavani'd left, I'd be like, you know, let's go. But why would you bring Ronaldo to Manchester United? Like, he'd want to play every game, and that would be impossible. And the money it would cost. And is he a centre-back? No. Is he a CDM? No. Is he a winger anymore? No. He's a striker. So it makes no sense, absolutely no sense to bring Ronaldo back to Manchester United. But look, we will definitely be linked to him because that happens every summer for the last 10 years. But I wouldn't even start to think that that could happen. I really wouldn't. I've just been asked to check a tweet here, which I'm about to do. Okay. Actually, last 11 minutes from MUFCB. Here we go. This is from Dean Jones Soccer, who is apparently he's a transfer insider. He says Cristiano Ronaldo is not coming back to Manchester United. United are quite consistent on the message that Ronaldo won't be returning to the club. There you go. And I didn't even know that before I spoke about that. And oh my God. I mean, there's also this thing about Dortmund are watching Mane bid of 70 million to be submitted in the coming days. Dortmund? Mane? Why would anyone retweet that bullshit? Come on. What a load of shite. I've never heard such shit in my life. Why would Mane go to Dortmund? And I think that's the contender for the biggest load of bollocks I've ever heard. Mane to, I mean, they could do a straight swap with Salah, but with Sancho. But why would Mane go to Dortmund? He's one of the best wide players in the world. Why would how old's Mane? It must be about what, 27, 28, 29, I don't know. Why would Mane go to Dortmund? Makes no sense. Makes no sense at all. Of course, there's no... Somebody just said there, are you 100% sure that we will sell Henderson or De Gea? There's no guarantee that we'll do that. There's no guarantee that we'll do that. So, no. It's like Harry... Well, great. Somebody just said there, and I must give him a shout out. Marcus says it's like Harry Kane going to Everton. Yeah, you just don't need to do that. Just don't need to do that. No need to do that at all. How does your arm feel, says Adrian? It's all right. I suppose a lot of you may have had a vaccine, so maybe be getting ready to have it. I had the Pfizer one, so it wasn't too bad. Do you think Pogba deserves a new contract, says Advath? Good question. Advath, that's a horrible question, but I like the horrible questions because it's a good question. Do I think that Pogba deserves a new contract at Manchester United? It's a difficult one because if you look at the 4 years and what we've paid him, it has been brilliant at times, but it's also been it's been as good as it's been as bad. To be fair, he's had a lot of injuries, he's had a lot of inconsistent games, but when he's been good, he's been really good. I like Paul Pogba, so for me, it's not. I'm not one of those fans that doesn't rate him, but I think to sign a new contract, you're going to have to increase his wages, and that's where it becomes a problem for me, because someone just said Pogba's like the UK weather, unpredictable. I can't believe it's May the 20th and it's raining, it's cold and it's windy. I mean, it's May. It's bloody May. I've not even had a barbecue this year yet. It's unbelievably crap. But the trouble with the Pogba deal is that it's his big contract deal. He's 28, so he wants the big contract. He's in his prime. I don't think Pogba justifies a wage increase. I think he's on about 275k, something like that. He wants about 350, 375. No, that's not justifiable, especially when Bruno's contract is around 100k and he's on about going up to 250k. On what planet does Pogba deserve a lot more money than Bruno? So I think the thing is, I'd like Pogba to stay and extend his contract, but I don't want to give him the money that they're asking for, if that makes sense. So I do like Pogba, and United are better with Pogba, but the money we'll have to pay him to make him stay, I don't think he justifies that money, if that makes sense. PK to United on short deal rumour, any true? Says Wayne Rooney. I hope not. I hope not. Wouldn't surprise me if United did some cheap shit like that. But no. So yeah, just to go back to what I was saying at the start of the show, Manchester United's priority is Jadon Sancho. This has been mentioned by numerous people anyway, but that is the story behind the scenes, that Manchester United's priority remains Jadon Sancho. It doesn't mean we'll sign Jadon Sancho. I think Liverpool would like to sign him, and there's potential that another club could go in for him, but he's United's priority, and United want to do that deal. However, alongside that is the belief that if United do a Sancho deal, don't expect any other big deals, which unfortunately is not what we want to see. So Sancho's the priority. Harry Kane, highly unlikely, because of Cavani staying and the money it would cost. But we'll see what happens. Anyway, look, I'm going to go and have a bit of an early night tonight because I've had my vaccine and I just feel like a bit of a rest, and I'm back on the morning show tomorrow. So thanks everyone for watching. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe. Obviously, we've got lots and lots of transfer chat to come over the next coming weeks and days and stuff. So make sure you subscribe, bottom right hand corner. Smash a like on the video. It's great to be back, as I said, at lunchtime. Very nice to be back on the chat. Really, really enjoyed it. And I will see you in the morning, of course. But stay safe, take care, and have a good evening or day or whatever you're doing, and I'll speak to you in a bit.